Number 1, to describe the trend in the future of supply chain management and logistics. Number 2, to describe concepts and principles of supply chain management to increase supply capabilities and adding value to their products and services by using the activities logistics. Number 3, to describe concepts and principles of risk management that occurred in the supply chain. And number 4, to describe concepts and principles of management of logistics activities and supply chain environment. In order to conform with the objectives, we constructed the topics that related to the future of supply chain as follows. Number 1, strategies for expanding supply chain system. Number 2, supply chain management for the ability to respond quickly and flexibly. Number 3, risk management in supply chains. Number 4, adding value to products and services by logistics activities. And number 5, supply chain and logistics for the environment. You know what the future supply chain is and how it benefits? If not, now we go into details together. For the first topic, strategies for expanding supply chain system are discussed. As the world has changed into globalization since the beginning of the 21st century, businesses have been placed more attention and focus on international investment. So as we can see, supply chain tends to have a trend to expand into international and to global supply chain eventually. Together with technology progress and different trade policies of each organization, resulting in the difference of supply chain expansion level in both upstream and downstream. There are driving factors behind the expansion of global supply chain management. Examples include: Number 1, development of information technology such as internet and wireless network, which help communication become faster and easier. Number 2, increasing demand volume in order to get the benefit from production economy of scale. Number 3, domestic market becomes saturated so that business cannot increase sales or profit anymore. Number 4, managing supply chain risk by allocating upstream and downstream partner in several areas around the world to reduce the possibility of supply chain disruption. Number 5, trade agreements between groups of countries such as European Union, North American Free Trade Agreement, ASEAN Economic Community. Number 6, change in economics and political environments. So, supply chain expansion trend in the future will get involved in global level. The expansion strategies can be considered from two aspects, which are: Number 1, upstream supply chain expansion. Number 2, downstream supply chain expansion. For the first part, we will address the characteristics and the objectives of upstream supply chain expansion. Upstream supply chain expansion at the global level means expanding of infrastructure in upstream part of the organization, such as source of raw materials, production, which over foreign organizations. The objectives are to reduce cost and increase revenue for the organization, reduce problems of local law practices, solve labor-related problem issues, including domestic labor potential. For the types of trade partner in upstream supply chain which will globally supply are: Number 1, partners who deliver main products or components are the organization's main products, such as contractors or manufacturers of component supplies for production, such as the producing of coffee cups for coffee houses. Number 2, partners who serve value-added products in order to furnish or decorate the finished products. And number 3, partners to deliver services to organizations such as the transportation provider, a warehouse for raw materials, or a provider of VMI, vendor managing inventory. The example of expanding upstream supply chain in global level is Nike Company's case. At present, Nike is a sports shoes provider whose sales volume is among the world top rank. The company produces and sells sports shoes in more than 140 countries around the world. For production, the company does not produce all shoes by itself. The company orders subcontractors in many countries to produce for the company. In the year 2002, Nike has 700 subcontracting companies around the world in 50 countries, by which an approximate of 84% of all employees were in Asia and 70% were EMEA. A distribution of income for Nike is at the following format. Retail sales, which is $65, will be allocated to Nike amount to $32.50 to cover cost. For $32.50, the company will allocate 50% for factories who are subcontractors around the world to cover raw materials, labor, and manufacturing overhead costs. The rest of 50%, which is $16.25, Nike would take it for research and development, transportation, insurances, and operating costs. The rest is Nike's profit. Next, we would like to move on to downstream supply chain expansion. Downstream supply chain expansion at the global level means the expanding of supply chain structure in downstream parts of an organization, which are warehouse, distributor, retailer, governing organizations overseas. The objectives of the supply chain expansion in the demand side is to increase number of customers, expand the market, and reduce cost of distribution of the organization. Types of trade partners in downstream supply chain, which will be expanded to global level, are as follows. Number 1, partners who that serve to add value to the product, such as to perform packaging, labeling, and etc. Number 2, partners who render services in distribution system, such as transport providers, warehouse operators, and sales personnel distribution. Let's see another example from Walmart, which is the downstream supply chain expansion. Walmart is a retailer of consumer products in the superstore whose nationality is American. Currently, Walmart is a retailer which has the highest share in meat market in the United States, which is accounted to 20% of total sales, as well as toys and other consumer goods. Currently, Walmart has expanded business to various countries as follows. Owns and operates businesses in North America as Sam's Club. Operates in Mexico under the name Walmex. Operates in England under the name ASDA. Operates in Japan under the name Seiyu. And also expanding the operations to other countries including Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Puerto Rico, up to China. For Walmart case study, it shows the success of downstream supply chain expansion in global, which helped Walmart access to broader market. In this topic, we will talk about quick response and agility supply chain. Quick response is a strategy to link the actions of the members of the supply chain, including manufacturer, supplier, and customer within the supply chain with a focus on reducing lead time and fulfilling customer requirement. Here are the answers. You can see the benefits of quick response are as to the organization would enjoy as follows. Number 1, reduce errors in demand forecasting since it is a short-time lead forecast. Number 2, reduce inventory level and reduce the chance of having inventory shortages. Number 3, increase productivity in operations resulting from time constraint. Number 4, better product quality. And number 5, reduce cost and increase profits for the organization. The principle of quick response supply chain consists of number 1, minimizing cycle times in every process. Cycle time reduction would cause a quick respond effect. Since lead times needed in fulfilled goods requirement for upstream to downstream supply chain are shortened, including lead times in ordering and delivering shortening as well. Number 1, minimizing cycle times in every process. Cycle time reduction would cause a quick respond time. Since lead times needed in fulfilled goods requirement from upstream to downstream, supply chain are shortened, including lead times in ordering and delivering shorten as well. Number 2, minimizing time variation in every process. This would enable the work process and supply chain to be more stable and more effective, leading to the reduction in supply chain end-to-end and order-to-delivery lead time. Number 3, coordination activities in supply chain to establish harmony among the different levels in supply chain. This will enable organization to achieve objectives more quickly and more efficiently. The parts we just went through show us that to create the ability of quick respond, supply chain must rely on lead time reduction principle. Lead time of any activity means the time span between the beginning to the ending of the activity. Reduction of lead time would help customers to achieve a faster delivery of goods, which in addition increase customer satisfaction, reduce inventory, reduce chance of being obsolete, or depreciation of inventory quality, and also increase quality of goods. Thus, when talking about lead time in supply chain, we are talking about the following factors: lead time in purchasing process, lead time in production process, lead time in distribution process, lead time in logistics activity, lead time in machine setup, waiting time, decision time, operation planning time. Next issue, which we are about to address, is agile supply chain. Agile supply chain is built to be highly flexible for the purpose of being able to quickly adapt to changing situations. This methodology is considered important for organizations that want to be able to adapt to unanticipated external economic changes, such as economic swings, changes in technology, or changes to customer demand. Implementing an agile supply chain allows organizations to quickly adjust their sourcing, logistics, and sales. To develop flexible supply chain, the following principles should be adopted. Number 1, create close relationships among members in supply chain. Number 2, replace forecast with real demand information from customers. Number 3, emphasize and focus on supply chain processes rather than functions. Number 4, develop a coordinated work plan between trade partners in supply chain. And number 5, seek for opportunities to continuously reduce cycle time of the processes. In this section, the case study of Zara and M&S, Marks and Spencer, is illustrated in order to provide an example on how the company can develop flexible supply chain. General information on both world-class brand fashion manufacturers are: both Zara and M&S are manufacturers and sales organizations with their own brand names. They are among the world's most famous brand names. The difference between these two is that Zara sells brand products which it does its own production, while M&S does the selling but employs subcontractors to do production for the company. Because the merchandises are fashion goods whose customers' requirements change rapidly, to cope with such changes, both companies must be able to adjust their processes quickly to respond to customer demand change. To be able to respond to customer demand, Zara and M&S changed the ways they use the managing suppliers. The principles developed by Zara and M&S are as follows. Number 1, improve the structure of operation network by integrating the operational processes with the suppliers. This enables both companies to increase the speed of raw material delivery, reduce production time, and reduce risk caused by miscommunication on customers' demands about good patterns. Number 2, improve technology and working methods used by suppliers of raw materials, including finished products for the case of M&S, in order to achieve quick response of meeting market demands. In order to integrate with suppliers, the companies employ the following approaches. Number 1, Streamline the procurement process in order to reduce the time and cost of operation. Number 2, select raw material sources that are geographically located close to their manufacturing facilities to ensure quick response to their orders. Number 3, select suppliers with required level of speed and expertise and sufficient capacity, which would help to respond to the market quickly and reduce stocking of inventory. Number 4, avoid having only one supplier and support suppliers who can produce various raw materials in order to avoid supply shortage causing from unexpected situations. In addition to the supplier integration strategy which Zara and M&S employed to adjust their supply chain to be more flexible, they also changed their internal operation to become more integrated in order to reduce risk which may occur from miscommunication on product information and customer demand, and also help supply chain to be more flexible in performing other operations. Number 1, design the procurement process so that the procurement decision for each merchandise category are made close to sales seasons as much as possible to avoid finished goods inventory and reduce inventory cost. Number 2, design the products that can be customized at the last stage of the production process when information about the trend and the requirements of the upcoming seasons arrive. Number 3, link product design function directly to the procurement function. Designers can make a decision about material purchasing in order to prevent inventory in the system and becoming more flexible to the change in customer requirements. Another factors that lead to supply chain flexibility is the principle of design-led supply chains. Next section, we will explore it in details. In order to create design-led supply chains, the following practice should be followed. Number 1, restructure the supply chain process to place product design as the first step of supply chain. Number 2, make product design be a team responsibility, not an exclusive task for any particular party. Number 3, integrate supplies in various levels which enable them to exchange information about product design. Number 4, employ the postponement strategy in product design so that the product can be customized at the last process. And number 5, develop a work system whose resources are flexible and resilient. Here we are at the conclusion. For the examples of Zara and M&S, it allows learners to understand more clearly about the process used for creating flexible supply chain, or so-called agility supply chain. The third lesson in this module is risk management in supply chain. At present, the risk management has been discussed and put into operation wildly in various organizations due to the current business conducted under the volatile conditions. Thus, organization must develop the methods for managing the surrounded risk in order to avoid negative effect from occurred risks. To provide some insights on the risk management concept, the following 2 examples are discussed in details. For example, information derived from Financial Times dated 24 July 2007. It said after the great earthquake in Japan in 2007, most car manufacturers in Japan, especially Toyota Company, must stop production activities temporarily due to raw material shortage because its main suppliers were affected by the earthquake and had to stop production. In this event, Toyota had to cease the whole operation of 12 sites in Japan. Second example from MIT, Sloan Management Review. It said that in 2000, a great fire at manufacturing facilities of Philips Company caused a worldwide shortage of radio frequency chips. This component had high demand because it was used as a part in mobile phone production such as Nokia and Ericsson. To solve such problem, Nokia managed to find a new source of raw materials and improve design on such chips so that the other companies could also produce. Ericsson, however, responded to such problems slower than Nokia. As a result, Ericsson had lost sales of mobile phones and connecting devices estimated at $40 million US. Next, we move to supply chain risk management. Supply chain risk management is a process of measuring or assessing risk within supply chain and then developing strategies to manage the risk. These strategies can involve the transference of risk to another party, risk avoidance or mitigation, and channel risk sharing. Quantitative risk assessment requires calculations of two components of risk. Number one, the magnitude of the potential loss. And number two, the probability that the loss will occur. We can specify that risk management is a plan in following. Number one, plan to reduce chance or frequency of negative event happening which is regarded as organization risk. And number two, plan to reduce level of outcome or effect from such negative events or such risk. From the picture shown in the slide, we will see that risk in supply chain can be categorized into 5 groups according to the supply chain functions as: number 1, supply risk; number 2, demand risk; number 3, process risk; number 4, network or control risk; and number 5, external risk. Let's discuss about it in more detail. Supply risk. Probability of loss occurring from unavailability of the necessary raw materials. Demand risk. Probability of loss occurring from fluctuations in external customer requirements and the forecast does not match actual demand. If it is off, it can cost due to surplus or cause lost sale due to lack of production. Process risk. Probability of loss occurring from the internal inadequacies of a firm or a breakdown in its controls, operations, policies, or procedures. Network risk. Probability of loss occurring from imbalance of power between trade partners, lacking cooperation in planning and forecasting demand, and insufficient information sharing among all members performing works along supply chain. External risk. Probability of loss occurring from events outside the supply chain and are beyond its influence or control. Sources of these risks include natural disasters such as earthquakes, changes in government legislation, and major microeconomic shift. Next, it will be about how to manage risk in basic supply chain. In general, risk management processes follow the same basic steps. Together, there are 5 steps combined to deliver a simple and effective risk management process. Step 1, identify the risk. Step 2, analyze the risk. Step 3, evaluate or rank the risk. Step 4, treat the risk. And Step 5, monitor and review the risk. In the first step, risks that might supply chain need to be uncovered, recognized, and described. There are a number of techniques that can be used to find supply chain risks. In the second step, once risks are identified, the likelihood and consequences of each risk are determined. The nature of the risk and its potential to affect supply chain goals and objectives are identified. This information is used to calculate risk. In the third step, the identified risks are evaluated and ranked by determining the risk magnitude, which is the combination of likelihood and consequences. The decisions are made about whether the risk is acceptable or whether it is serious enough to warrant treatment. The fourth step, the risk treatments are developed. This is also referred to as risk response planning. During this step, highest ranked risks are assessed and set out a plan to test or modify these risks to achieve acceptable risk levels. The focus is on minimizing the probability of the negative risk as well as enhancing the opportunities. The risk mitigation strategies, preventative plans, and contingency plans are also developed in this step. In the last step, the risks are monitored and reviewed. All risks that are identified should be tracked, monitored, and reviewed to ensure that the risk response plans are still appropriated. Now, we would explore another trend related to supply chain management, which is the value enhancement to products and services by logistics activities. First of all, we need to understand the definition of logistics management. Logistics management is the part of the supply chain that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective, forward, and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customers' requirements. Therefore, the objectives of logistic management is to meet the customer requirements in several aspects, which are: number 1, delivering the right product. Number 2, delivering the right quantity. Number 3, delivering with the right condition. Number 4, delivering at the right place. Number 5, delivering at the right time. Number 6, delivering to the right customer. And number 7, delivering with the right cost. With then growth of globalization in business, logistics management is also one of the areas that get great impacts. We can summarize the impact of globalization on logistics management as follows. Number 1, business focuses more on quality and respond to customer need. Number 2, business are affected by the buying power of big retailers such as modern trade. And number 3, customer demand become more complex. From the business pattern change mentioned, there are impact on the following issues. The impact of globalization on logistics management. Number 1, impact on macroeconomic perspective. Number 2, impact on micro perspective. Impact on macroeconomic perspective are as the following. Logistic activities have more result in economic structure and also have more correlations. Business logistics cost has a higher value. Percentage of gross domestic product has declined. Transportation cost has highest share of total logistics cost. Logistics activities must add value of goods and services such as place utility, that is transport goods to place when requested. Time utility, that is transport goods at request place at specified time. Logistics activities create national economic development and develop functional business expertise. Logistic has affected land price to increase since it can be assessed easily. For impact of logistics management on micro level or logistics management must be linked to production system to realize right and accurate time consumed in production for the purpose of delivery planning. Logistics activities must be linked to marketing and distribution as product pricing depends on size and quantity of orders, since they have an effect on logistics cost. Product styles that are related to size, shape, and package used. They are resulted in transportability and cost. Publicity and merchandise promotion, including designation of distribution channels and merchandising as to reduce inventory in warehouse. Service delivery, during and after delivery, are what called customer services. Besides, logistics activities must relate and link to other functions in the organization, such as procurement, product planning, and development. Next, let's move on to a trend of adding value to modern logistics activities. Normally, value enhancement is the modern logistic activity will be in the form of utility business. Value enhancement in the modern logistics activities are: number 1, form utility. Number 2, place utility. Number 3, time utility. And number 4, possession utility. Number 1, form utility. Form utility refers to a product's being in a form that can be used by a customer and is of value to the customer. Although form utility has generally been associated with production and manufacturing, logistics can also contribute to form utility. For example, to achieve production economies, lower cost per unit, a soft drink company may produce thousands of cases of a certain type of soft drink. Example, Diet Cola. You're not likely to purchase Diet Cola by the thousands of cases unless you're having a really big social event, but rather in smaller lot sizes, such as a 6 or 12-pack. Through allocation, logistics can break the thousands of cases of Diet Cola into smaller quantities that are desired by customers. Another example would be Dell, when it combines components along with software to produce a computer to a customer's specifications. Logistics plays its role in combining these different components, represents a change in the product form that adds value to the product. Number 2, place utility. Place utility refers to having products available where they are needed by customers. Products are moved from points of lesser value to points of greater value. Continuing with the Diet Cola example, place utility is increased by moving the soda from a point of lesser value, stored in a warehouse, to a point of greater value, on a supermarket shelf. Number 3, time utility. Closely related to place utility is time utility. Time utility refers to having products available when they are needed by customers. It's important to recognize that different products have different sensitivities to time. 3-day late delivery of perishable items likely has more serious consequences than 3-day late delivery of non-perishable items. Logistics creates time utility through proper inventory maintenance, the strategic location of goods and services, and transportation. For example, logistics creates time utility by having the right products stored close to the point of demand or using a premium, faster, mode of transportation. Number 4, possession utility. Possession utility refers to the value or usefulness that comes from a customer being able to take possession of a product. Possession utility can be influenced by the marketing activities related to the promotion and sale of products and services. Promotion can be defined as the effort, through direct and indirect contact with the customer, to increase the desire to possess a good or to benefit from a service. The role of logistics depends on the existence of possession utility. For time, place and quantity utilities would make more sense only if demand for product and service exists. Marketing also depends on logistics, since possession utility cannot be accomplished unless time, place, and quantity utilities are provided. Next, it will be about another trend in supply chain management, which is third-party logistics. With international trade mushrooming and supply chains expanding around the world, third-party logistics providers have taken on an increasingly important role for multinational manufacturers and retailers. A third-party logistics provider is a firm that provides service to its customers of outsourced logistics services for part or all of their supply chain management functions. Third-party logistics providers typically specialize in integrated operation, warehousing, and transportation services that can be scaled and customized to customer needs. These services go beyond logistics and include value-added services related to the production or procurement of goods. It can be concluded that services provided by third-party logistics include warehouse management, product distribution, order receiving and order fulfillment process, sourcing and purchasing, transportation service, packaging service, inventory management and inventory replenishment, good return management. In addition to provide functional services, some logistics providers become a supply chain integrator that assembles and manages the resources, capabilities, and technology of its own organization with those of complementary services providers to deliver a comprehensive supply chain solution. This results in a new type of logistics provider, fourth-party logistics, which differs from third-party logistics in the following ways. Number one, fourth-party logistics, or 4PL, organization is often a separate entity established as a joint venture or a long-term contract between a primary client and one or more partners. Number two, 4PL organization acts as a single interface between the client and multiple logistics service providers. Number three, all aspects, ideally, of the client supply chain are managed by the 4PL organization. And number four, if it is possible for a major third-party logistics provider to form a 4PL organization within its existing structure. The last topic of future trend of supply chain management is an environment-friendly supply chain management. Green supply chain management is a modern management strategy which could comprehensively consider the environmental influence and resource utilization efficiency in this whole supply chain. The reason for the organization focusing on green supply chain management is because of: currently, countries are aware of and focus on the issues and the environmental impact that affects global warming. Consumers in many countries are shifting their attentions to the issue along with questions posted on the operator about the efforts for improvement and sustainable development to reduce carbon dioxide emissions, including the amount of waste from the manufacturing process and the supply chain of goods produced and delivered to consumers. Consumer attention towards environmental issues are prime cause which push operator and production and party involved to consider the environmental issue as new topic for supply chain management. The principles of 3R for supply chain. The principles of 3R for green supply chain: reduce, reuse, recycle. The first R is reduce, which means using fewer resources in the first place. This is the most effective of the 3 R's and the place to begin. The example are the reduction on material usage as a result of new technology and the reduction on energy consumption as a result of using a new machine. The second R is reuse. Reuse is a process of using an item again after it has been used. This includes conventional reuse, where the item is used again for the same function, and a new life reuse where it is used for a different function. For example, consumers can refill a purchased bottle of water with water from home to minimize the number of plastic bottles being discarded. The third R is recycle. Recycle is a process that changes waste materials into new products to prevent waste of potentially unuseful materials, reduce the consumption of fresh raw materials. The example are bringing used papers to be reprocessed to newsprint papers. To measure and assess the impact of supply chain activities on the environment, the key measure, known as carbon footprint, are generally used. In this topic, we will discover the meaning and details of carbon footprint. Carbon footprint means the total amount of greenhouse gases produced to directly and indirectly support human activities, usually expressed in equivalent tons of carbon dioxide, CO2. Carbon emission label or carbon label describes the carbon dioxide emissions created as a byproduct of manufacturing, transporting, or disposing of consumer product. This information is important to consumers wishing to minimize their ecological footprint and contribution to global warming made by their purchases. This is an example of carbon footprint labels. Based on the label, the total carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases emitted from the raw material, production, distribution, use, and disposal. The example of reducing carbon footprint in supply chain are: number 1, procurement process. Selecting products and services that cause minimal adverse environmental impacts. Select products that are recyclable. Select products made from raw materials obtained in an environmentally sound, sustainable manner. Number 2, production process. Reduce the use of fuel. Adopt the clean technology. Reduce waste from production process. Number 3, delivery process. Reduce waste from transportation process by utilizing full truckload and backhauling. Switching to more efficient vehicle types or transportation mode. Change fuels of existing vehicle types, select the appropriate route. Number 4, recycle process. Repair, reuse, or recycle a product. Remove inefficient return processes. Implementing green supply chain benefits organizations in several aspects, which include: number 1, sustainability of resources. Implementing green supply chains results in the effective utilization of all of the available productive resources of organizations. Number 2, lowered cost, increased efficiency. Green supply chain management help reducing waste by increasing efficiencies. Effective management of resources and suppliers can reduce production costs, promote recycling, and also the reuse of raw materials. Number 3, product differentiation and competitive advantage. Implementation, green supply chain helps an organization to position itself and its products as environmentally friendly to its customers' perception. Besides attracting new profitable customers for organizations, it will give competitive edge over the competitors in the marketplace. Number 4, adapting to regulation and reducing risk. Organizations adopting green supply chain practices can reduce the risk of being prosecuted for anti-environmental and unethical practices. Number 5, improved quality in products. Organizations that produce products which are technologically advanced and environment friendly will find this will enhance the brand image and brand reputation in customers' minds. Up till now, you have been taught the entire future supply chain management. Let's move into a test for the system.